is a marathon. It's not a sprint. We need to take it one day at a time, and to be gentle with ourselves in all of the different emotions we might be feeling around it. I also want to acknowledge that finding comfort, safety, and support, that's okay too. And I've been hearing people talk about how they feel guilt around, finding joy in having more time with their family, if that's their experience, or having more time to exercise, or time to do projects, that kind of thing. And the guilt leading to shame around being sort of okay right now, even in the face of tragedy and confusion. So we're here to say that that's okay, and that's important too. And it's going to be mixed. It's going to be mixed with all kinds of all kinds of different emotions. And we want to speak for a second to the class of 2020. You all, I think it's safe to say that this is not how you expected your college years to end. You've been working really hard for a long time to get to this point, and here this last semester was dramatically changed, we'll say. Maybe graduation is postponed. We don't really know what that's going to look like, and so we just want to say that disappointment, it's real, and it's true. And recognizing that some of us aren't able to finish the requirements that we need to graduate on time. And I've heard and learned that OSU is offering a lot of really great resources around that to support, which is great and important. But it doesn't lessen the disappointment. And so just want to really put that out there, that it's valid that you might be experiencing some disappointment around what your end of college years look like. And I actually want to turn it over to my colleague Abraham to talk a little bit about that. Abraham recently graduated just last summer in 2019, and he's going to speak a little bit to you all, to what that might be like.
Yeah, thanks, Becky. And you mentioned something that was, I think, really important. And you said that it's a marathon and not a sprint. And I think when our focus is on a marathon, we now look at the journey with a whole new perspective. And so I think, especially for seniors who are going through these uncertain times, these unprecedented times, and this isn't something that we necessarily expected. Um, when we look at it as a marathon, we can see that we can truly appreciate the hills. We can truly appreciate the valleys, and we can understand that in this process, we can really appreciate it because it's a process, and in the process, we've grown. You guys have grown tremendously throughout the process. So just like Becky, you mentioned acknowledging the grief and not minimizing the grief. That's a part of the process. And just like we are experiencing grief, and we all are experiencing, these uncertain times, and we're going through different emotions, not minimizing those, not acting as if those don't exist, but then also celebrating the wins and celebrating the successes that we've had during the process so far. Because when we think about our college experience, and I just recently graduated in 2019, and I just missed this, pandemic, and as I'm thinking about that and kind of putting myself in that situation, it's like, man, I don't know how I would really handle that, because that is something that I would be really confused about. I would be frustrated about. I'd be angry about. Reason being, I'm the first in my family to graduate from college. I'm the first in my family to leave home and go off to a university, and that's one kid out of 7 kids, right? And so when I think about that, graduation and going to college and getting a degree, that was very important for me just to progress in life. But not only that, but it was important for me to be that example and show my younger siblings kind of what that looked like. And so just thinking about not being able to walk across the stage, not having my family in the auditorium cheering me on, screaming, yelling, crying. I remember when I graduated, I looked over in the stands, and my parents were not far away, so I was able to see them, and I could see my dad crying. And it's like, just those moments that that don't happen again, right? And so I'm thinking about, what if that was taken away from me? What if that, like in an instant, was stripped from me? And that would mean a lot. I would be, extremely frustrated. And so when we talk about appreciating the process, it's also appreciating and acknowledging the fact that we do have these feelings, and not going on and acting as if they're not there, acting as if they don't exist, but really acknowledging them, and also seeing how these emotions and these feelings are ultimately helping us to grow and develop. And then the other part that I think is important as we're going through this marathon, is that we do have successes, even though the goal or the achievement doesn't necessarily look like how it did when we started off. But the successes or the small wins, or the fact that you came in as a freshman and you've made it all the way up until this point, and the person that you were when you started is not the person who you are now. You've grown tremendously. You've become a whole new person. Like, you've overcome a ton of challenges, a ton of different adversities, and you were able to continue pushing throughout that process. And so if we can redefine success by appreciating the fact that there was growth in this process, then not that it minimizes walking across the stage, or you know having our family there to cheer us on, but that is just icing on the cake, right? The cake that was being that we had to put together. We needed the flour, we needed all the different ingredients in order to make the cake, and we had to um, you know what is it, batter. We had to, create the cake, and the base and foundation of the cake is that process. The achievement in walking across the stage is the icing. And so if we look at it like that, we can really appreciate the successes that we've been able to accomplish throughout this journey.